Thank you, Chairman. And to you, Mr. Coleman, it's clear that you and the FAA are doing an outstanding job at ensuring public safety. So many thanks. It's also clear that transitioning to new Part 450 regulations, while also responding to the increasing pace of launch activity, is an increasing challenge. With all of the potential steps and solutions being proposed in this hearing, do you believe that March 2026 is realistic, or that we need to look at a later time frame?
Thank you for the question, Ranking Member Sorensen. I will say that March 2026 at the moment looks very challenging. We have, as was mentioned, we have 6 licenses out of about 30 that have been transitioned to Part 450. To get those additional licenses under Part 450 in that time frame will be very challenging, and we'll keep a close eye on how we are progressing towards that mark in 2026.
Recognizing your office's growing workload, Congress has increased appropriations to help the FAA meet its demands for licensing services. A significant portion of the additional funding is for staff, especially as you compete with the private sector. Are we doing enough to make sure that you can meet those demands?
Well, certainly we appreciate what Congress has done to support our staff increases. We're now currently at 158 persons, which is the largest we've ever been. We've brought on about 35 new persons in the last year as a result of funding that we've received from Congress. But in the President's budget request for 25, we are looking for additional staffing that we will need to continue to keep pace with the demand for our products and services that we're seeing.
And are we going to not only meet that demand here, but are we going to meet the demand when we are competing against China?
Well, listen, we certainly understand and appreciate the importance of beating China to the moon. We just had a conversation recently with NASA leadership where that was reemphasized, and our commitment certainly is to support this industry and our nation in getting to the moon before China. So we will do everything in our power to make sure that that happens.
Mr. French, you noted that the advisory committee that you help lead will be looking at workforce issues of FAA's Office of Commercial Space Transportation. When will that effort be completed, and do you anticipate additional authorities will be needed to support the staffing and workforce needs?
Thank you, Ranking Member Sorensen. We'll be talking about this actually next week at our public meeting, and then that'll likely sort of lead to some discussion with AST. We want to certainly get their feedback on how they think particular authorities could be useful to them. But I'll certainly put that together and provide it to the committee. Any takeaways from there?
Thank you. Appreciate that. And Mr. Coleman, as a meteorologist myself, someone who believes that we should be good stewards of the environment that we have been given. Environmental impacts have to be considered as we increase the launch frequency. As the cadence increases, what does the FAA need to do to help meet and assess environmental challenges?
Well, as you mentioned, environmental is very important. As we go through our campaigns to issue licenses, licensing being a major federal action, we have to comply with NEPA. And in doing so, we look at the potential impacts of these operations on the environment. We're looking at a couple of environmental reviews right now in Boca Chica and Bozeman, Florida. Due to increased operations in Boca Chica, we're looking at the impact on the environment due to those increased operations. We work very closely with our partners in the Fish and Wildlife Service, the fisheries, and other agencies within the Department of Interior to make sure that we have the appropriate mitigations in place when necessary to address environmental needs associated with these licensing activities.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. And Mr. French, in your opening statement, you talked about environmental challenges. How are we able to meet the need while continuing to progress forward in this sphere?
Yeah, in my perspective, I'm concerned that this could be sort of a new emerging area in the licensing process. I think a lot more attention is being paid to the space industry, and as a result, I think a lot more attention will be paid to the environmental aspects of the space industry. From a congressional perspective, Congress is doing quite a bit of thinking right now on the federal permitting process as it relates to renewable energy. I think it'd be appropriate to look at what's being considered in that area and see if some of those same changes would be appropriate for a space perspective.
Thank you, Mr. French. My time has expired. I yield back.